Hey guys, Danny Johnson here, and if your parking brake has come down with a case of the wobblies like this, I'll show you what's going wrong and how you can fix it real easy. So inside here there's two 7mm screws. Remove both of those. Next, remove the shift knob just by turning it counterclockwise and spin it until it comes off. Okay, so next here you want to get your fingernails kind of under here. You want to pull this straight back here, and then again on this side here. And then as you go to slide this off, there's going to be a cigarette lighter attachment on the back. Okay, so for the cigarette lighter attachment, you can put a screwdriver down in that box, or sometimes just push here, and you're able to pinch it and separate this. Okay, so that just separates, and then your whole bezel can be set out of the way. Next, we're going to remove these two screws here. They should also be 7mm or so. Okay, and then there's one harness right here to unplug. And so you're going to, either with a screwdriver or just your thumb, you're going to push down on that tab and then separate this. Sometimes it helps to get a screwdriver right there once that button's pushed down and help pry it apart. Okay, so with the button pushed down, nice little pry apart there with a screwdriver, and these two ends will separate. Okay, so now you can lift this up and out of the way. Sometimes it's really hard to get it over the e-brake without tearing this boot, and you have to get under it and kind of push it forward. And so the center console doesn't need to come all the way out. We're basically just going to lift up on the end of it and then give us some room to work under there. Okay, so the problem that we have here is kind of common. You can see where that stud goes, and it's actually broken away from the body. See at the bottom where it's just ripped itself clean? And so we need to reattach this so that it's firm to the chassis again. Okay, so in this case, the top nut is just going to spin, so we have to hold it on the bottom since it's broken all the way apart from the car. So I have a 15mm wrench on the bottom that's holding it still, and then the 10mm on the top is how we'll remove the nut. Now, if yours hasn't broken clean through the floor like this, then obviously the bottom one will have to be done from underneath the car, and you can use a pair of vice grips or a 15mm wrench like this to put in place so that it doesn't spin. If it hasn't broken clean, you should be able to ratchet it off. Okay, so here's our bolt and our nut that it feeds into. Okay, we just disassembled it. And all we're going to do is put this one down first and then get a body washer from a part store, hardware store, anything like that, that we're going to basically put on first. So then as we screw this back down into it, it's going to bridge that gap. Okay, now you can do this with just about anything. This is a piece of metal that I have, and it's kind of the same concept. As long as you can get something in here that's flat, that you're going to be able to run, this bolt through to catch on here and go back into the bottom, then you'll be okay. Okay, so we just set that bolt back down into the hole. Okay, it's not threaded into anything yet. It's just in the hole. Now we're going to go from underneath the car. Okay, so we lifted the car and safely secured it here on jack stands to make sure that it's safe. And now we're just going to go under where the shifter area is, up in this area. Okay, so follow the transmission back in this tunnel, and you should be able to find where that screw's coming through. So as you can see, next we're just going to put this body washer here and just make sure the washer is big enough that it's not going to be pulled through. And once the washer's installed, then we're going to just put the screw part on the back of it, and then we're just going to tighten it back down. So two people, can definitely help to have somebody from the top if you have someone available. And as you can see, that we're just going to screw this back in, and it's going to keep it from going through the floorboard. So if you need a bigger washer than this, you can find a piece of metal with a hole in it, anything that's just going to bridge that gap right there. Okay, so here's our bolt coming through. We have our washer, and then we have the back side here. And this is a longer bolt. You can go get a longer bolt if that works out better for you, if it's hard to thread the other one. And then a little tip, next I'm going to put vice grips on here on the bottom, and that's going to hold it in place while I tighten it down up top. Okay, so the vice grips are locked onto that block at the bottom, and now we'll just tighten it down from the top of the car. Okay, so now from the top we're just tightening this down. I have the bendable head ratcheting one. They really come in handy. So we'll just tighten this down until it's firm. Okay, so as you can see, that's now tightened down flush. It's nice and firm, and our parking brake's going to be nice and tight. So we'll go ahead and remove the wrench and take our vice grips off from underneath. Okay, and yeah, you can see how nicely that's sealed up now. There's no daylight coming through, so that means no moisture coming through. So much better. Okay, so just remove the vice grips there. Now, this one's protruding down pretty far. There still is some good distance between the drive shaft, but you do want to make sure that you're not going to scrape it on the drive shaft when the weight of the car is back on and everything's back in place. So just make sure you still have clearance there if you're using a bigger bolt like this. Okay, so reinstall the screws inside the center console. Reinstall the screws here and here. Plug that harness back in and put the bezel here, the shift bezel, back in. Okay, everything back together. Now you have a nice solid e-brake. It doesn't move as much. And it's nice and firm when you pull it up. Doesn't feel like you're going to pull it right out of the floor. So hopefully this helped, and if you have any questions, put them in the comments. Thanks for watching.